The unexpected visitor. The forest was unusually quiet that evening. The wind barely stirred the tall trees, and the fading sunlight painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. Deep in the heart of the forest, a creature stirred, unlike anything the earth had ever known. The alien crashed into the dense woods, its ship a mangled mess of twisted metal and glowing embers. It crawled out of the wreckage, its sleek, silver body flickering with faint lights, and its large, dark eyes scanning its surroundings. It was wounded, a strange, dark fluid dripping from its arm. Every movement caused it pain, but it could not stop. The alien knew it had to hide. Something, or someone, was chasing it. For hours, it stumbled through the forest, clutching a small metallic device close to its chest. This device was its lifeline, but also its burden. It contained secrets, information that could destroy worlds or save them. The alien had stolen it from its own kind, and now they were hunting it down. As the sun disappeared, darkness swallowed the forest. The alien's body began to adapt, emitting a soft glow that lit its path. It was unfamiliar with this planet, but the towering trees and earthy smells reminded it of a distant home it had left long ago. For a brief moment, it felt an odd sense of peace. Then it heard the sound. Footsteps. The alien froze. It wasn't the mechanical hum of its pursuers. This was something else. Something human. Ethan Walker, a young hiker, was returning from his usual trail. He loved the quiet of the forest, the way it helped him clear his mind after long days working at the nearby research lab. Tonight, though, he felt uneasy. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Then he saw it. At first, he thought it was a strange animal, but as he stepped closer, his flashlight revealed a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. It stood on two legs, hunched slightly, with a metallic sheen that reflected the light. Its glowing eyes turned toward him, filled with something Ethan couldn't quite understand. Fear, desperation, or perhaps regret. "What the?" Ethan muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. He reached for his phone, but before he could do anything, the alien lunged. It wasn't an attack out of malice. The alien acted on instinct, driven by fear of exposure. It tackled Ethan to the ground, knocking the flashlight from his hand. Ethan struggled, shouting, but the alien was stronger. It pressed its hand to Ethan's chest, and a faint pulse of energy surged through him. Ethan's body went limp. The alien stared at him, its glowing eyes wide with shock. It hadn't intended to kill him, only to silence him. But humans were fragile, far more so than it had anticipated. As Ethan's breathing slowed, he whispered something that sent chills through the alien. The message must deliver. The alien tilted its head, confused. What message? It searched Ethan's belongings and found a small device in his pocket. It was old and scratched, but its blinking light suggested it was still active. The alien recognized it as human technology, though rudimentary compared to its own. Yet there was something strange about it, something familiar. Suddenly, the device emitted a faint voice, distorted but clear enough to make the alien pause. "You've made a terrible mistake." The alien's body stiffened. It glanced around the dark forest, its senses on high alert. Was it a trap? Had the humans known it was coming? It couldn't understand how this human, this ordinary man, was connected to its mission. A rustling sound broke the silence. The alien looked up, scanning the shadows. It felt a presence nearby, but there was nothing visible. Was it the humans or its own kind? Its enemies were relentless, and they would stop at nothing to retrieve the device. But now, the alien had more questions than answers. Who was this human? And what was this message he was so desperate to deliver? The alien knew it couldn't stay. It picked up the human's device, clutching it alongside its own. As it stepped away, it glanced back at Ethan's lifeless body. A strange feeling began to stir within it, something it hadn't felt in years, perhaps ever. Guilt. But there was no time for regret. The alien had to keep moving. It had to find answers before it was too late. As it disappeared into the forest, the blinking device in its hand began to emit another sound, a series of beeps, like a countdown. The alien stopped, staring at it, unease spreading through its body. What had it just triggered? In the distance, the faint hum of engines echoed through the night. Something was coming. The alien turned and ran, the weight of its actions and the human's final words heavy on its mind. It didn't realize it yet, but this moment would change everything, not just for itself, but for the fate of the entire planet. The hunt had only just begun. The message. The forest was no longer quiet. The air buzzed with tension as the alien darted through the trees, clutching the human's device tightly. Behind it, faint mechanical hums grew louder. They were closing in, relentless, precise, and merciless. The alien knew these hunters too well. They weren't just after the device. They wanted it. It stopped briefly, hiding behind a massive tree trunk. Its body shimmered, blending into the bark like liquid metal. The blinking device in its hand pulsed faintly, casting an eerie glow. The alien inspected it again, its sharp fingers tracing the scratches on its surface. There was something deeply unsettling about the device. It wasn't just human technology. It carried traces of something else, something familiar and ancient. The device emitted a distorted voice once more. "You've made a mistake." The alien stiffened. The words were faint but unmistakable. Who, or what, was speaking? Its glowing fingers moved quickly, activating its own wrist device. A holographic projection flickered to life, scanning the human's device. The analysis confirmed its suspicions. The device was a hybrid of human and alien technology. But the coding was different, almost sentient. It seemed to be trying to communicate. Before the alien could process this, the hologram glitched, showing a fragmented message. Save humanity. Before. Error. Asterisk. The alien's mind raced. It had taken the device to protect itself, but now it realized it had stumbled into something far more dangerous. The message wasn't just a warning. It was a plea. Not far from the crash site, Ethan's body lay motionless, the forest eerily silent around him. But something strange was happening. The faint glow of the alien's energy lingered on his chest, pulsating softly. His fingers twitched, and then his eyes snapped open. He gasped for air, clutching his chest as if pulled back from the brink of death. "What happened?" he muttered, disoriented. He sat up, his mind flooded with fragments of what he had seen. The alien's glowing eyes, the device in his hand, the blinding light before everything went dark. Then he remembered the message. The device, Ethan whispered, looking around. It was gone, and so was the alien. Back in the forest, the alien moved cautiously, every sound amplified by its heightened senses. The mechanical hums grew closer, accompanied by faint flashes of light cutting through the darkness. The hunters were here. The alien's wrist device alerted it to movement ahead. It paused, scanning the area. A cluster of small, insect-like drones hovered above the ground, their sharp red lights sweeping the forest floor. The alien knew these drones well, scouts sent by its pursuers. If one spotted it, the others wouldn't be far behind. Using its advanced stealth capabilities, the alien scaled a nearby tree, its body blending seamlessly with the bark. From its vantage point, it observed the drones. They moved with precision, scanning every inch of the forest. But something about their pattern was unusual. They weren't just searching for the alien. They were tracking the signal from the human's device. The alien's grip tightened around the device. It had activated something when it took it from the human. The blinking light wasn't random. It was a beacon. Below, the drone suddenly shifted direction, heading deeper into the forest. The alien watched them disappear into the darkness, but its relief was short-lived. Its wrist device buzzed again, projecting a warning. A much larger signal was approaching from above. It looked up and saw a shadow cutting across the night sky. A ship. The alien's pulse quickened. The ship wasn't one of its own. It belonged to them, its pursuers. They had tracked the signal. The alien knew it couldn't outrun them forever. It needed to understand the device's purpose and why it was so valuable. More importantly, it needed to decide, was this device a weapon to protect itself, or was it something far greater? Meanwhile, Ethan staggered through the forest, his flashlight flickering. His chest ached, the strange energy still coursing through his body. He didn't know how he was alive, but he knew he couldn't stop. The alien had taken the device, and with it, the message he had been entrusted to deliver. Ethan wasn't just a random hiker. He had been part of a secret project, a collaboration between human scientists and a rogue alien faction. Together, they had developed the device, a fail-safe against an impending invasion. But the project had been compromised, and Ethan was tasked with ensuring the device reached its destination. Now, it was in the hands of an alien, a fugitive who likely had no idea what it was carrying. Ethan stumbled into a clearing, his heart pounding as he spotted tracks on the ground. The alien had come this way. In the distance, faint red lights danced through the trees. He crouched low, realizing he wasn't the only one searching for the alien. "Damn it," Ethan muttered. "They're here." He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the faint glow beneath his skin. Whatever energy the alien had transferred to him, it was keeping him alive, but at a cost. He could feel it spreading, changing him in ways he didn't understand. The alien found temporary refuge in a cave. Its glowing fingers worked quickly, interfacing with the human's device. A new fragment of the message played, this time clearer than before. "The key will stop them, but only if." The voice cut off, leaving the alien frustrated. It activated its own memory logs, trying to connect the fragments. Slowly, an image began to form, an ancient artifact hidden deep within this forest, a so-called key capable of neutralizing the invaders. The device wasn't the key itself, but a map to its location. The alien's thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash outside the cave. It turned to see a figure standing in the entrance. It was Ethan. "I think you have something of mine," he said, his voice firm despite the fear in his eyes. The alien stared at him, its mind racing. This human should have been dead, yet here he was, alive, and glowing faintly, just like the alien's own energy. Before either could speak, a deafening roar echoed through the forest. The invaders had arrived. The message was no longer just a warning. It was a race against time. The hunter becomes the hunted. The roar from the skies lit the night, followed by an intense beam of light that swept across the forest. The alien and Ethan instinctively ducked, their eyes darting toward the source. A massive ship loomed above the treetops, its hull gleaming with alien markings that pulsed like a heartbeat. The invaders were here, and they weren't hiding anymore. Ethan turned to the alien, who stood frozen at the cave entrance, its metallic body shimmering faintly. "We don't have time for this," he hissed, his voice cutting through the tension. "Whatever you think about humans, I'm not your enemy. But they are." He gestured to the ship. The alien's large, dark eyes narrowed as it regarded Ethan. This human wasn't ordinary. Something had changed within him. The energy transfer had altered his physiology in ways even the alien couldn't fully understand. For the first time, it considered an alliance, however fragile. The alien extended its arm toward Ethan, who flinched but held his ground. A soft glow emanated from the alien's palm, scanning Ethan's body. What it found startled it. The human wasn't just alive. He was adapting. The energy was merging with his biology, making him different. Before the alien could process this, the ship above unleashed a series of small pods. They slammed into the ground like meteors, scattering dirt and debris. From the pods emerged humanoid machines, their angular bodies sleek and lethal, their glowing red eyes sweeping the forest. "They're here for the device," Ethan whispered, his breath catching in his throat. The alien nodded, gripping the human's device tightly. It activated its wrist console, projecting the small holographic map. The artifact, the key, was hidden a few kilometers away. If they could reach it, they might have a chance to stop the invaders, but getting there wouldn't be easy. The forest transformed into a battlefield as the invaders began their search. The drones spread out, their red beams slicing through the darkness. Each beam disintegrated anything it touched: trees, rocks, even the forest floor. The alien and Ethan moved carefully, staying low and silent as they weaved through the dense underbrush. "Why are they after you?" Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant hum of the ship. The alien glanced at him, but didn't respond. It didn't trust humans, not fully. But it couldn't ignore the strange connection it now shared with this one. The energy it had transferred wasn't just keeping Ethan alive. It was linking their minds. For brief moments, the alien could sense Ethan's thoughts. Fear, confusion, but also determination. Ethan, on the other hand, was struggling to keep up. His body ached, his chest burned, and his mind raced with questions. Yet he felt something else, a strange clarity, as if the alien's energy was sharpening his senses. He could hear the hum of the drones, the rustling of leaves, even the faint heartbeat of the alien beside him. "We can't outrun them," Ethan said finally. "They'll track the signal." The alien stopped and turned to him. With a flick of its wrist, it deactivated the blinking light on the human's device. The signal faded, but the invaders wouldn't be fooled for long. They were relentless, driven by purpose. The alien knew this too well. It used to be one of them. As they moved deeper into the forest, the pair stumbled upon a clearing filled with strange markings on the ground. They glowed faintly, forming an intricate pattern that pulsed in rhythm with the alien's device. The alien knelt, studying the markings. This was ancient technology, older than even its own kind. The artifact was close. Ethan watched as the alien placed the device in the center of the pattern. A soft hum filled the air, and the ground trembled. The markings began to shift, forming a pathway that led deeper into the forest. "What is this place?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with awe. The alien glanced at him, its expression unreadable. It gestured for Ethan to follow, and together they stepped onto the glowing path. But the moment they did, the invaders descended. The drones were faster this time, their movements coordinated and precise. They swarmed the clearing, their red beams slicing through the air. Ethan and the alien barely dodged the first wave, diving into the underbrush as the forest erupted into chaos. Ethan grabbed a fallen branch, a futile weapon against the machines. "Got any better ideas?" he shouted, his voice barely audible over the hum of the drones. The alien didn't answer. Instead, it activated its wrist console, summoning a holographic blade that extended from its arm. It moved with precision, slicing through the nearest drone. Sparks flew as the machine crumpled to the ground, but more were coming. Ethan felt a surge of energy pulse through his body. Without thinking, he swung the branch at another drone. The force of his strike far greater than he expected. The drone shattered, and Ethan stared at his hands in disbelief. "What's happening to me?" he muttered. The alien paused, its eyes narrowing as it studied Ethan. The energy transfer was affecting him faster than anticipated. The human wasn't just adapting. He was becoming something new. The fight continued, but the invaders were relentless. The alien and Ethan managed to destroy a few drones, but their numbers seemed endless. The forest was ablaze with red light, the hum of the machines deafening. "We can't stay here," Ethan shouted. The alien nodded, grabbing the device and gesturing toward the glowing path. They sprinted down the ancient trail, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Behind them, the drones followed, their red beams cutting through the darkness. As they ran, the alien felt a strange sensation, a flicker of hope. It didn't fully trust this human, but it couldn't deny his determination. For the first time, the alien wasn't just running for itself. It was running for something greater. Ahead, the path opened into a massive cavern. In its center stood a towering structure, pulsating with light. The artifact. Ethan stared at it, his chest tightening. He didn't know what it was or how it worked, but he knew one thing. It was their only chance. The alien and Ethan exchanged a brief glance, an unspoken agreement passing between them. They had to make a stand, a deadly ally. The cavern was immense, its walls glittering with ancient otherworldly patterns that pulsed in synchronization with the artifact at its center. The artifact stood like a spire, twisting upward, its core emitting a soft, shifting glow. The energy radiating from it was tangible, filling the air with an electric charge. Ethan and the alien stood at the edge of the chamber, catching their breath, their eyes locked on the spire. "What is that?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien didn't respond with words. Instead, it placed its hand on the nearest wall. The pulsating patterns responded, rippling outward like water disturbed by a stone. The artifact reacted, its glow intensifying. This wasn't just an object, it was alive, and it was waiting. Before they could take another step, the sound of the invaders echoed through the cavern. The drones swarmed into the space, their red lights slicing through the darkness. Behind them, a larger figure emerged, humanoid in shape, but undeniably alien. Its armor gleamed, and its weapon hummed with lethal energy. This was no scout, it was a commander. Ethan gripped a jagged piece of stone he had picked up along the way, his makeshift weapon feeling pitiful in the face of such advanced technology. "We can't fight them all," he said, panic creeping into his voice. The alien glanced at him, then at the artifact. Its mind worked rapidly, calculating their slim chances. Finally, it activated its wrist console, projecting a map of the cavern. A hidden passage lay beyond the artifact, a potential escape route. But first, they had to survive. The drones attacked in unison, their beams cutting through the air. The alien moved first, its wrist blade igniting in a blaze of light. It slashed through the nearest drone, sparks flying as the machine collapsed. Ethan followed instinctively, swinging his stone at another drone. To his surprise, his strength had increased again. The impact shattered the drone, sending fragments skidding across the cavern floor. "What the hell is happening to me?" Ethan muttered, staring at his hands. He felt stronger, faster, more alive, as if the alien's energy was awakening something dormant within him. The commander stepped forward, its presence commanding the drones to fall back momentarily. It raised a hand, and a pulse of energy shot toward the alien. The alien dodged, but the force of the blast shattered the ground beneath it, sending it sprawling. Ethan acted without thinking. He charged at the commander, his movements almost superhuman. The commander swung its weapon, but Ethan ducked and slammed his stone into its armor. The impact dented the metal, shocking both Ethan and the commander. The alien, recovering quickly, took advantage of the distraction. It lunged at the commander, its blade slicing through the creature's weapon. Sparks erupted as the weapon shattered, leaving the commander unarmed but no less dangerous. It roared, its voice reverberating through the cavern. The artifact pulsed violently, reacting to the chaos. Its light brightened, casting the entire cavern in a blinding glow. The ancient patterns on the walls shifted faster, almost as if the chamber itself was coming alive. The ground trembled, and a low, resonant hum filled the air. Ethan and the alien glanced at each other, both understanding the same unspoken truth. The artifact was reacting to them. It wasn't just a weapon or a key. It was a being of immense power, and it was waiting for someone to unlock it. But who? The commander, despite being unarmed, lunged at the artifact. Its glowing hands reached for the spire, its intent clear, to claim the power for its own. The alien intercepted, slamming into the commander with all its strength. The two clashed in a violent struggle, their movements a blur of light and metal. Ethan, caught between helping the alien or reaching the artifact, hesitated. Then he felt it again, a surge of energy coursing through him, pulling him toward the spire. Without fully understanding why, he ran toward it. As Ethan approached, the artifact responded. Its light shifted, focusing on him. He placed his hands on its surface, and an overwhelming force surged through his body. Visions flooded his mind. Planets consumed by war, civilizations falling, and the invaders spreading like a plague across the galaxy. But among the chaos, there was hope. A voice, ancient and calm, spoke directly to him. "You are the bridge. Unite or perish." Ethan gasped, pulling his hands away. The artifact's glow dimmed momentarily, as if waiting for him to act. Behind him, the alien and the commander's battle raged on, the sound of metal against metal echoing through the chamber. The alien finally gained the upper hand, striking a critical blow that sent the commander crashing to the ground. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining drones swarmed the alien, their beams cutting into its metallic body. The alien cried out, its strength waning. Ethan turned back, his decision made. He sprinted toward the alien, grabbing one of the fallen drones and hurling it at the others with surprising force. The impact scattered the machines, giving the alien a chance to recover. "You saved me," Ethan said, helping the alien to its feet. "Now let's finish this together." The alien looked at him, a flicker of trust passing through its eyes. It nodded, and the two turned toward the artifact. The commander, battered but not beaten, roared as it rose again. It launched itself at Ethan and the alien, its movements desperate and feral. But the artifact responded first. A wave of energy erupted from the spire, throwing the commander and the drones back with incredible force. Ethan and the alien stood before the artifact, its light enveloping them both. The patterns on the walls stilled, and the cavern fell silent. The artifact had chosen them, not as individuals, but as allies. The alien placed its hand on the artifact, its own energy merging with the spire. It glanced at Ethan, silently urging him to do the same. Ethan hesitated but then placed his hand beside the alien's. The artifact's glow intensified, and a new energy surged through them both. In that moment, they became something greater than themselves. Their connection deepened, their thoughts intertwined. Together, they felt the artifact's immense power and its warning. The invaders were not just hunting them. They were hunting Earth. And this was only the beginning. The key to survival. The artifact's light enveloped Ethan and the alien, their minds and bodies resonating with its ancient energy. For a moment, the chaos around them faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of unity. Ethan felt his thoughts merge with the alien's, its memories, its pain, and its purpose flooding into him. He saw glimpses of its past, a war-torn homeworld, where its kind had created the invaders as tools of conquest. But the invaders had turned against their creators, becoming unstoppable forces of destruction. The alien, once a soldier in that war, had defected, stealing the artifact and fleeing in a desperate attempt to stop the coming annihilation. Ethan gasped, stumbling back as the visions faded. "You're running from them," he said, looking at the alien with newfound understanding. "You're not just trying to survive. You're trying to undo what your people started." The alien nodded, its glowing eyes meeting Ethan's. There was no need for words. The artifact had made their understanding mutual. But their moment of connection was cut short by a deafening roar. The invader commander had risen again. Damaged but relentless, it charged toward them, flanked by a new wave of drones. The artifact's energy surged, but it was clear. It couldn't hold them off forever. They had to act. Ethan and the alien turned toward the artifact, now glowing brighter than ever. It pulsed with energy, responding to their presence as if waiting for a command. But activating its full power required a price, one that neither of them fully understood yet. The alien placed its hand on the spire again, its body trembling as it interfaced with the ancient technology. Patterns of light danced across its metallic skin, and a soft hum filled the cavern. It turned to Ethan, gesturing toward a console that had emerged from the ground. Ethan approached cautiously. The console was covered in strange symbols. But as he neared, the artifact translated them in his mind. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a key to a dormant defense system buried deep beneath the earth. Activating it would unleash a force capable of neutralizing the invaders, but it came with a warning. To awaken the key is to sacrifice the light. What does that mean? Ethan asked, his voice tinged with fear. The alien didn't answer, but the weight of the words settled heavily between them. One of them would have to give up something vital to activate the key. The drones swarmed forward, their beams cutting through the cavern. Ethan ducked behind the console, while the alien fought valiantly, its blades slicing through the machines. But the numbers were overwhelming. The commander advanced, its glowing eyes locked on the artifact, its intent clear. Ethan's heart pounded as he worked at the console, deciphering its instructions. The symbols became clearer as the artifact fed information directly into his mind. He could feel the system awakening beneath the surface, a massive power stirring like a slumbering giant. The alien fought fiercely, but it was weakening. Its body was riddled with scorch marks, its movements slower. Ethan looked up, panic rising. "I can't do this alone," he shouted. The alien glanced at him, then at the artifact. It knew what had to be done. It limped toward the console, placing its hand beside Ethan's. The artifact's glow intensified, and a deep, resonant hum filled the cavern. The invaders paused, as if sensing the shift in power. But the commander wouldn't give up. It roared, launching itself at the pair. Ethan braced for impact, but the artifact reacted first. A wave of energy exploded outward, knocking the commander and drones back. The alien stumbled, its body flickering as the energy took its toll. "Whatever this costs," Ethan said, looking at the alien, "we have to finish it." The alien nodded, its glowing eyes filled with resolve. Together, they activated the final sequence. The cavern trembled as the artifact's core expanded, revealing a swirling vortex of light. The ancient defense system awakened, sending shockwaves through the earth. Above, the massive ship hovering in the skies began to falter, its systems disrupted by the energy surge. Ethan felt the energy coursing through him, stronger than ever, but also draining. The alien, however, was faring worse. Its body was disintegrating, the energy consuming it piece by piece. "No," Ethan shouted, reaching for the alien. "We can find another way." The alien placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, its touch gentle despite its fading strength. In their shared connection, Ethan understood its decision. The alien had lived through lifetimes of regret, of pain and war. Now it had a chance to make things right. For Ethan, for Earth, and for its own redemption. The alien stepped into the vortex, its body merging with the artifact. The light intensified, and the defense system roared to life. The cavern was consumed by blinding brilliance as the artifact unleashed its full power. When the light faded, the invaders were gone. The ship had vanished, and the drones lay lifeless on the ground. The artifact stood silent, its glow dimmed, its task complete. Ethan collapsed to his knees, his body shaking. He stared at the empty space where the alien had stood moments before. The cavern felt hollow without its presence, but as he looked at the artifact, he felt a faint pulse, a reminder that the alien's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Above ground, the first rays of dawn broke through the forest canopy. The world was safe, at least for now. But Ethan knew this wasn't the end. The artifact had awakened something within him, something he couldn't ignore. He stood, the faint glow in his chest still burning, and made a silent vow. "I'll protect this planet, for both of us." The alien was gone, but its legacy lived on in Ethan. And as he stepped out of the cavern, he knew the fight was far from over. The final stand. The forest was eerily quiet as Ethan emerged from the cavern, his steps heavy with exhaustion. The faint glow in his chest was still there, a constant reminder of the alien's sacrifice. The early morning light streamed through the trees, but it brought no comfort. Ethan knew the invaders weren't truly defeated. The artifact had stopped them for now, but something deeper, something darker, was coming. As he trudged through the forest, his mind raced. The aliens' memories still lingered in his head, like fragments of a dream he couldn't shake. He could see their faces, hear their cries, and feel their fear as the invaders turned against them. It wasn't just Earth at risk, it was the galaxy. Then, a distant sound broke the silence. A low, rhythmic thrum echoed through the trees, faint but growing louder. Ethan's pulse quickened. He looked up and saw it. Another ship descending through the clouds. It was smaller than the one from before, but far more menacing. Its angular design glinted in the sunlight, and its underside bristled with weapons. Ethan ducked behind a fallen tree, his breath shallow. "They're not done," he muttered to himself. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small, blinking device the alien had given him. It was silent now, its light dim, but Ethan could feel its importance. This wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a piece of the alien's legacy. The ship landed in a nearby clearing, its landing thrusters scorching the ground. From its hull emerged a squad of humanoid figures, clad in sleek black armor. Their movements were synchronized, their weapons humming with power. They scanned the area, their red visors glowing ominously. Ethan's chest burned as the energy within him flared. He clutched the device tightly, feeling the alien's presence through it. "I can't outrun them," he whispered, realizing the truth. Not this time. He took a deep breath, stood, and stepped into the clearing. The squad turned immediately, their weapons trained on him. Ethan raised his hands, trying to suppress the fear bubbling inside him. "I know why you're here," he said, his voice steady. "You're looking for this." He held up the device, its faint glow catching their attention. The leader of the squad stepped forward, its helmeted face giving nothing away. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "Surrender the device, human. Your world has already lost." Ethan smirked, despite himself. "Funny, that's not how it feels." The leader tilted its head, confused. Before it could respond, Ethan's chest glowed brighter, and a pulse of energy erupted from his body. The squad staggered, their systems briefly disrupted. Ethan didn't wait. He darted into the forest, the device clutched tightly in his hand. The chase was relentless. The squad moved with inhuman precision, their footsteps thunderous behind Ethan. The forest blurred as he ran, his enhanced speed and strength keeping him just ahead of his pursuers. But he knew it wouldn't last. The energy within him was powerful, but it was also unpredictable. Every burst of power drained him further, and his vision began to blur. As he ran, Ethan's thoughts returned to the alien's final moments. It had trusted him with this device, with its mission. He couldn't fail, not now, not when so much was at stake. The forest suddenly opened into another clearing, this one dominated by ancient stone ruins. Ethan stumbled to a stop, his chest heaving. The ruins looked similar to the cavern where the artifact had been housed, their surfaces covered in glowing symbols. He didn't know what they meant, but he felt their pull. The squad emerged moments later, their weapons raised. Ethan backed toward the ruins, his mind racing. He placed the device on a nearby stone pedestal, hoping it would do something. Anything. The ruins responded immediately. The symbols flared to life, and the ground trembled. A beam of light shot upward from the pedestal, piercing the sky. The squad hesitated, their mechanical precision faltering as the light enveloped the area. The leader growled, "You've activated the failsafe." "Foolish human." Ethan squared his shoulders, his chest still glowing faintly. "Yeah, well, I've been told I'm full of surprises." The ruins' energy surged, creating a protective barrier around Ethan. The squad opened fire, but their beams were absorbed by the light. Ethan felt the energy coursing through him, stronger than ever. The alien's voice echoed in his mind, guiding him. "You are the bridge. Unite the forces. Fight for survival." Ethan clenched his fists, the glow in his chest spreading to his arms. He stepped forward, the barrier moving with him. The squad's leader roared, charging at him with a blade of pure energy. Ethan met the charge head-on, his glowing fists colliding with the blade. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the clearing. The fight was fierce and chaotic. Ethan moved with a speed and strength he couldn't fully control, his body a blur of light and motion. The squad pressed their attack, but the ruin's energy seemed to protect him, amplifying his every move. For the first time, the invaders seemed uncertain. As the battle raged, the ruin's light grew brighter, pulsing in time with Ethan's movements. The device on the pedestal began to hum, its glow matching the rhythm. Ethan realized the ruins weren't just protecting him. They were preparing something. A final strike. The squad leader lunged again, its blade aimed directly at Ethan's heart. But this time, Ethan didn't dodge. He caught the blade with his glowing hands, the energy from his chest surging through him. The blade disintegrated, and the leader staggered back, its armor cracked and sparking. "This is for them," Ethan said, his voice steady. "For the ones you've taken. For the ones you'll never get." With a final surge of power, Ethan slammed his fists into the ground. The ruins responded, sending a massive wave of energy outward. The squad was thrown back, their bodies crumbling under the force. The ship in the clearing trembled, its systems failing as the energy consumed it. When the light finally dimmed, the clearing was silent. The ruins had gone dormant, their symbols fading. The squad and their ship were gone, reduced to ash. Ethan collapsed to his knees, the glow in his chest dimming but still present. He stared at the ruins, a mix of awe and exhaustion washing over him. The alien's voice echoed one last time in his mind. "You are ready." Ethan stood, clutching the device. The fight wasn't over, but he had taken the first step. For Earth, for the alien, for the future, and he wasn't afraid anymore. An alien's regret. The ruins were silent, their glow faded, leaving only faint traces of the battle etched into the clearing. Ethan stood amidst the wreckage, his chest still faintly pulsing with the alien's energy. He held the device in his hand, its light steady now, almost reassuring. But deep inside, he felt the weight of what had just transpired, and what was still to come. The alien's voice, though distant, lingered in his mind. "You are ready." Ready for what? The question gnawed at him. The artifact, the energy coursing through him. And the invaders. It all pointed to something bigger, something far beyond his understanding. He didn't have long to wonder. The sky above darkened, not from clouds but from something vast blocking out the sun. Ethan's heart sank as he looked up. A new ship descended, larger and more menacing than the last. Its surface shimmered with alien rooms, and its edges seemed to ripple as if it were alive. This wasn't just another wave of invaders. This was something else, something far worse. The ground beneath Ethan trembled as the ship settled above the forest, its shadow engulfing everything. A deep, resonant voice echoed from the craft, amplified and inhuman. "The key has awakened." Ethan tightened his grip on the device. "The key," he muttered. "You mean me." The voice ignored his words, continuing with an eerie calm. "Surrender yourself, and we will spare your world. Resist, and watch it burn." Ethan's chest flared with heat, the energy reacting to the threat. He took a shaky breath and stepped forward. "If I'm the key, then you're afraid of me," he called out, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Why else would you send your best to stop me?" There was a long silence, broken only by the hum of the ship above. Then, a beam of light shot down, carving a path toward Ethan. From it emerged a figure unlike the drones or commanders he had faced before. This one was tall, humanoid, but its features were hauntingly alien. Its body was sleek and fluid, shifting like smoke trapped in metal. It didn't carry a weapon. It was the weapon. "You misunderstand," the figure said, its voice softer but no less menacing. "We do not fear you. We pity you." The figure approached Ethan, its movements unnervingly smooth. "You carry the burden of the key," it said, gesturing toward Ethan's chest. "You think it is power, but it is a curse. It will consume you, just as it consumed the others before you." Ethan stepped back, his heart pounding. "Others? What are you talking about?" The figure tilted its head, almost curiously. "The key is not unique. It is a remnant of an ancient war, a desperate creation of those who sought to undo what we became. But every wielder has fallen. You will too." Ethan's grip on the device tightened. The alien's memories surged in his mind. The wars, the sacrifices, the relentless march of the invaders. "Maybe they fell because they were alone," he said, his voice firm. "But I'm not." The figure paused, its glowing eyes narrowing. "You think the bond you shared with the traitor will save you. It was weak. It died for nothing." The words struck Ethan like a blow. He clenched his fists, the energy within him surging. "It didn't die for nothing," he said, stepping forward. "It died to give me a chance to stop you." The figure raised a hand, and the ground beneath Ethan erupted. He dodged, barely avoiding the strike, and retaliated instinctively. A burst of energy shot from his chest, striking the figure. It staggered, but recovered quickly, its fluid body shifting to absorb the impact. "You cannot win," the figure said, its voice calm even in battle. "The key's power is finite. You are already burning out." Ethan felt the truth of those words. Every surge of energy left him weaker, the glow in his chest flickering. But he couldn't stop. Not now. The alien had trusted him. The artifact had chosen him. He wouldn't let their sacrifices be in vain. He charged at the figure, his glowing fists colliding with its fluid form. The impact sent shockwaves through the clearing, but the figure remained relentless. It lashed out, its liquid-like body morphing into blades that struck at Ethan. He dodged as best he could, but one blade grazed his arm, leaving a searing wound. The pain was blinding, but Ethan pushed through it. He remembered the alien's final words: "Unite the forces, fight for survival." This wasn't just about him. It was about something far greater. As the battle raged, the device in Ethan's hand began to pulse wildly. He glanced at it and realized what it was doing. It wasn't just a beacon. It was a conduit, a way to amplify the key's power. But activating it would come at a cost. The alien's voice echoed in his mind one last time. To awaken the key is to sacrifice the light. Ethan understood now. The light wasn't just the energy in his chest. It was him. The key would consume him entirely, leaving nothing behind. But if it meant saving Earth, saving everything the alien had fought for, he was willing to pay that price. He activated the device. The clearing exploded with light, brighter than anything Ethan had ever seen. The figure recoiled, its form disintegrating under the force of the key's power. The ship above faltered, its hull cracking as the energy surged into it. The invader's voice screamed, a distorted wail that faded into silence. Ethan felt his body dissolving, the light consuming him, but he wasn't afraid. In those final moments, he saw the alien's face, felt its presence beside him. Together, they had done it. The ship disintegrated, and the light faded. When the dust settled, the clearing was empty. The ruins were still, their symbols dim. The device lay on the ground, inert. Ethan was gone. Days later, the forest was peaceful again. A team of scientists investigating the strange phenomena found the ruins, the device, and a strange, metallic tree growing where Ethan had stood. Its bark shimmered faintly, like liquid metal, and its roots glowed softly. Ethan wasn't gone, not entirely. He had become something new, something eternal. A guardian of Earth, a reminder of the alien's regret, and a testament to the power of sacrifice. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, the invaders hesitated. For the first time, they had been stopped, and they would remember the name of the key.